each. Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I'm Sharon Tazwell. Here's your Spectrum News at 90. The White House says 1 million federal employees responded to an email requesting an accounting of their work last week. This as Elon Musk says those who did not respond to the email will be given another chance to do so. The White House says a billionaire who is not a cabinet member will attend Trump's first official cabinet meeting tomorrow. Trump's press secretary continues to defend Musk's email.
We advise federal workers, unless your agency has dictated you not to respond to this email.
New details in the case against Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of killing 4 Idaho college students more than 2 years ago. Transcripts released from a recent hearing showed there was only one person's DNA detected on a knife sheath at the crime scene. However, a genetic expert testified the FBI admitted using a database off limits to law enforcement. Despite that, a judge denied Kohberger's attempts to suppress the evidence. The trial is expected to begin in August. And the Vatican says Pope Francis remains critical but stable as he battles double pneumonia. The 88-year-old pontiff continues to work from the hospital and is asking for prayers.
And we heard us, he's in the hospital right now, and we are very worried about his health. So I come here today to pray for him.
And that's your Spectrum News in 90.
Tracking mild temperatures for the country over the next few days, especially the southern U.S., and quiet conditions as well. So a taste of spring in the air for a good portion of the nation. Temperatures compared to average on Wednesday from the central U.S. to the East Coast, 10 to 20 degrees above average, well above average Thursday, especially for the plains and upper Midwest.
The Office of Personnel Management is asking, all this administration is asking, President Trump is asking, is for federal workers who live off of the American taxpayer's dime to send 5 bullet points of what they have done in the previous week. That is all we are asking for.
The White House continues to defend an email sent by Elon Musk asking federal employees to outline their accomplishments last week. But the move continues to sow confusion among federal agencies and pushback from workers. 21 federal staffers resigned Tuesday in what is being seen as a mass protest against Musk and the so-called Department of Government Efficiency. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Musk told federal workers they have another chance to justify their work or risk losing their jobs. The threat comes despite a memo from the Office of Personnel Management saying the email is voluntary. Well, Spectrum's Daniel Grimes has been closely following the directive and joins us with the latest from Washington.
Reply or resign. That's the ultimatum that still appears to be on the table for federal workers after days of mixed messaging from the Trump administration. Late Monday, the Office of Personnel Management said federal employees did not need to answer that email they received with the subject line, "What did you do last week?" Just hours later, billionaire Elon Musk posted on social media that employees will be given a second chance and failure to respond would result in termination. The White House doubled down on that position on Tuesday.
We advise federal workers, unless your agency has dictated you not to respond to this email.
The FBI, state, and defense departments are among the agencies that have advised employees not to respond. Still, the White House said more than 1 million employees have replied. The email is just one way that DOGE, the cost-cutting effort led by billionaire Elon Musk, has tried to slash the federal workforce. Employees initially were given a delayed resignation offer. Once that deadline passed, layoffs began. Now, some of those who lost their jobs are finding their voice, or rather their seat, at a a sit-in on Capitol Hill Tuesday.
It's one thing to just say that you're making these cuts without realizing the direct impact. It's nothing when you see the people.
DOJ claims it has cut tens of billions of dollars in unnecessary or fraudulent spending, but the Trump administration's own data shows the math is not adding up. For example, nearly 40% of the federal contracts the administration says it has canceled is not likely to save any money because the government has already spent the funds or is legally required to spend them. Still, Republicans are claiming victory.
Just as we promised, President Trump is making transformational change to the bloated federal bureaucracy.
Democrats say the administration is illegally cutting spending and hurting critical services.
Democracy itself is under assault.
Daniel Grimes joins us from Washington. Daniel, the White House says Elon Musk will attend Trump's first official cabinet meeting Wednesday. Why is this significant?
Yeah, I mean, cabinet meetings, they're typically attended by presidential appointed cabinet secretaries and, of course, the White House chief of staff, in addition to the president and vice president. So this is unique having him attend. Now, Musk says he plans to discuss DOJ, the U.S. DOJ services efforts, and how all of the cabinet secretaries are identifying waste, fraud, and abuse at their respective agencies. Now, again, his attendance comes as there's mass confusion over whether federal employees should respond to an email that they received over the weekend. He posted on social media on Monday that a second email could come. The White House today said that if employees get that email, their agency head hasn't said otherwise, that they should definitely respond. Sharon?
All right. Daniel Grimes in Washington. Thanks. On Capitol Hill, the House is set to vote on a budget resolution Tuesday in hopes of avoiding a government shutdown March 14th. House Republicans narrowly advanced a framework of the bill earlier today. But as Spectrum's Evan Kozloff reports, the legislation may still be in jeopardy amid a GOP revolt.
This is super unpopular, what they are doing. Nobody wants this.
An all-out blitz by Democrats on Capitol Hill, trying to stop a House budget plan that calls for $4.5 trillion in tax reductions and $2 trillion in spending cuts, enacting President Donald Trump's agenda.
House Democrats will not provide a single vote to this reckless Republican budget. Not one.
Democrats raising the alarm about possible cuts to federal programs like Medicaid, inviting recipients of the federal program to rally on the House steps.
Right now, I'm terrified because Republican leaders seem poised to take critical resources away from my family.
There is no Medicaid in this bill.
Republican leaders pushing back on Tuesday, saying specific cuts are not included in this budget blueprint.
Do a word search for yourself. It doesn't even mention Medicaid in the bill.
The math is quite clear.
And yet Democrats and even some moderate Republicans argue that these cuts will be unavoidable, since the blueprint calls for the House committee overseeing Medicaid funding to slash programs by $880 billion.
Everybody is committed to preserving Medicare benefits for those who desperately need it and deserve it and qualify for it. What we're talking about is rooting out the fraud, waste, and abuse.
House Speaker Mike Johnson trying to hold off Republican defections to keep his razor-thin majority together. Without Democrat support, he could only lose one Republican vote. A daunting task for Johnson, who needs to win over his most conservative members who want greater cuts without triggering a rebellion from moderates.
Meanwhile, on the other side of the Capitol, Republican senators are pursuing an alternative approach. Instead of the House's GOP plan for one big, beautiful bill, as Trump refers to it, Senate Republicans are moving ahead with two bills. The first would boost funding for border security, defense, and energy, and then the second would deal with tax and spending cuts. Sharon?
So, Evan, we're also following legal losses by the president Tuesday. A federal judge is extending a block on the Trump administration's sweeping freeze on federal funding. What can you tell us about that?
Right, so this all started shortly after President Trump took office. A White House directive back in January ordered the freezing of federal grants and loans totaling trillions of dollars. All of this sparking confusion and panic from recipients until that freeze was temporarily blocked by a federal judge. In fact, amid all this backlash, the Trump administration rescinded the memo that announced this freeze. Nonetheless, the legal process continued, and on Tuesday, the federal judge decided that this pause should be extended. The judge writing in part that the administration, quote, cannot pretend that the nationwide chaos and paralysis from 2 weeks ago is some distant memory with no bearing on this case. So, Sharon, Spark notes the pause on the freeze continues.
All right, Evan Kozloff in Washington. Thanks.
Thank you.
New concerns in the case against Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of fatally stabbing 4 Idaho students. Why his defense argues DNA in this case shouldn't be admissible. Just ahead on Spectrum News.
We said we'd never break the 3-second rule. Never do that. And never become a minivan mom.
Hey, Chris.
As parents, we say never a lot, but never happens. So when you say you'd never leave your child in a hot car, know it can happen. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
I really am in the middle of nowhere. Every day is different. Chores, come on, homeschooling, and then I fit in the rug business. I just got a new batch of rugs that I'd love to show you. I have a website, and a lot of what I do is sharing my home life. Mommy's leaving. Reliable, high-speed internet is the foundation of our business. Spectrum was great. They went out of their way to make sure that I was okay and I was taken care of. Shoo! And that's the awesomeness of having Spectrum.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is, fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
To Spectrum News, meteorologist Alan August here, and I wanted to start off with this beautiful shot coming out of Kewaskum, Wisconsin. Thanks so much, Bruce Klink, for sending that in. You can see that sun there across the horizon, but also still a little bit of snow on the ground. And speaking of the sun, the sunsets are going to be getting later shortly as daylight saving time returns. By March the 9th, Portland, Maine, your sunset is at 6:40. Columbia, South Carolina, the sun right now will set at 6:18, but at 7:27 by March the 9th. In Denver, 5:47, your current sunset just after 7 o'clock by March the 9th. The country as a whole, yes, it's pretty quiet out there today. We are tracking a little bit of rain through New England. Yes, rain right now, but some snow in the higher elevations of upstate New York, and then rain and mountain snow, and also gusty winds for the Pacific Northwest. The good news is this system finally moving away tonight into tomorrow. So the futurecast across the country, notice pretty quiet. There will be a weak clipper system throughout the day tomorrow through the Great Lakes. So a little snow for Michigan moving into upstate New York by Wednesday night into Thursday. But the overall trend, again, milder air for much of the country, especially the south, a taste of spring. Towards the Great Lakes and Northeast, shots of colder air from time to time into the weekend, but much of the country above average temperatures. So you look at the highs here for tomorrow: 75 in Atlanta, Raleigh 73, Dallas 75, not bad in Chicago at 53 degrees. A little bit cooler for the Great Lakes and Northeast on Thursday. And Friday, temperatures for the most part above average, 60s and even 70s towards Dallas and Houston. So again, mild air winning out, and we look at the temperatures compared to average, most of us running about 10 to about 20 degrees above normal.
If If you're just joining us, here's what you need to know. The White House says 1 million federal workers responded to an email requesting an accounting of their work last week. Elon Musk is giving employees another chance to respond. A Southwest plane avoided a collision with a private jet Tuesday in Chicago. Officials say the pilot was forced to perform a go-around to prevent a crash. And stocks slide Tuesday as concerns mount over inflation and tariffs. The S&P fell 0.5% for its fourth straight drop. The Nasdaq sank 1.4%. That's what you need to know. We are learning new details against Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of fatally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in 2022. The new information comes from an unsealed transcript of a hearing on whether to suppress genetic genealogy evidence. Spectrum's Ariel Wessler has more details on the new findings in the case.
The newly unsealed court transcript sheds rare light on a case that's been in large part kept out of public view. In it, a defense attorney claims investigators acted inappropriately in their use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, to identify their client, Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger is accused of fatally stabbing 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus housing in November of 2022. The defense's claim stems from how authorities used DNA gathered off a bloody knife sheath found beneath one of the victims, Maddie Mogen. The transcript shows Idaho State Police sent that sample of what's called touch DNA to a forensic DNA lab in Texas. The lab used a database accessible to law enforcement to make a small, partial connection to possible distant relatives and 4 living brothers, none of whom were named Kohberger. The lab recommended the FBI get comparative DNA from the brothers, but the brothers refused to cooperate, according to the transcript. Despite that dead end, the FBI still identified Bryan Kohberger as the suspect just more than 2 weeks later. His defense team claims, according to the unsealed transcript, that the FBI used other public databases not authorized for law enforcement use to run the DNA sample. Citing a document shared with the court, a witness testified the FBI admitted to using MyHeritage, which is off limits to investigators. Kohberger's defense team asked the judge to suppress that IgG evidence. That request was denied, and Kohberger's trial is set to go forward in August, with prosecutors seeking the death penalty if he's convicted. Because of a wide-ranging gag order, prosecutors, defense lawyers, and attorneys for the victims' families, as well as witnesses, are all prohibited from saying anything publicly aside from what is already in the public record. Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
A Missouri woman has pleaded guilty to a charge accusing her of plotting to sell Elvis Presley's Graceland mansion. Prosecutors say Lisa Janine Finley claimed Presley's daughter borrowed almost $4 million and pledged the mansion as collateral before she died in 2023. Authorities say Finley then threatened to sell Graceland if the Presley family did not pay a nearly $3 million settlement. On Tuesday, Finley pleaded guilty to 1 charge of mail fraud related to the scheme. Her sentencing has been set for June. Pope Francis remains in critical but stable condition Tuesday. The Vatican says the Pontiff's blood levels are stable as he battles double pneumonia. The 88-year-old underwent a follow-up CAT scan to check his lung infection. Doctors say the Pope has not had any further respiratory issues. The Pope was well enough to resume work activities, including meeting with the Vatican Secretary of State to approve new decrees for possible saints. All eyes on Indianapolis as the 2025 NFL Combine is set to kick off this week. We're on the ground there counting the days. Plus, a look at what coaches will be on the lookout for. That's just ahead.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms. Available on the Spectrum News app.
Starting a business is hard. You have to stay connected at all times.
As we've been growing the studio, Spectrum's been there every step of the way. I'm always able to make the phone call that I need. I'm able to shoot that text message or that email. Every vital piece of equipment that we have here uses Spectrum.
Fast, reliable internet, starting at $40 a month, backed by the Spectrum commitment to keep your business connected.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
To Spectrum News. I'm meteorologist Alan Auglis, and a quiet weather pattern continues for most of the country. A couple of clipper systems, some fast movers moving through the Great Lakes and Northeast, bringing a little rain and snow. But overall, the mild temperatures continue, and the quiet weather pattern again. You can see it on satellite radar. Not much to talk about here for much of the country. Some rain and snow through New England, also the Pacific Northwest storm. We did have a lot of rain in Florida yesterday. That system now well off to the east, but not before dropping some drought-busting rainfall in Key West. There was flooding there yesterday, nearly 3.5 inches of rain there. Tampa, over 2 inches of rainfall. West Palm and Orlando, just over an inch of rain. We go towards the Northeast, New England. We're seeing a little bit of snow through northern Maine, some rain along the coast this evening. That will be moving out tonight into tomorrow. Then another system on its heels through the Great Lakes here for tomorrow. Rain and snow with that, and that advances towards the Northeast into New England by Thursday with more rain and snow, and also some gusty winds. Let's look at the snowfall expected through the Northeast and Great Lakes into early on Friday. A few inches of snowfall expected from Michigan, also through northern New England, perhaps over 6 inches towards the high elevations of upstate New York. Look at the warmth though, a different story for the South, right? Temperatures on Wednesday, upper 70s, flirting with 80 in Atlanta and Jackson, also Tampa, even Raleigh coming in at 70 for midweek. Enjoy the warmth as we look ahead towards Thursday and Friday. Temperatures still mild, but back into the 60s for Atlanta on Friday. Chicago cooling down on Thursday, but 50s are back by Friday. Even towards Kansas City, we're up to 70 degrees by week's end with a zonal flow in the jet stream, mild Pacific air. However, the Northeast, the Great Lakes, dealing with some of those clipper systems, bringing in some shots of colder air at times into the weekend. And you can see that here with that 5-day temperature trend in Syracuse, New York. 40s Wednesday and Thursday, but a high of 31 on Friday. The normal high 36. We're down into the teens to near 20 by Sunday. Looking ahead into the first week of March, temperatures more likely to be above average, especially for the southern portion of the U.S.
Scientists think they have uncovered the mystery behind what makes Mars the red planet. Researchers previously thought that the lack of water and iron in the rocks reacted with oxygen, creating the red-colored dust. But new research published Tuesday in the journal Nature Communications suggests a different mineral containing water may actually be the cause for the red hue. Well, scientists think the mineral must have formed on ancient Mars when water was on the planet. As we come close to the end of Black History Month, a special fly-in was held in Florida over the weekend to honor a crucial part of aviation history. Spectrum's Amber Gerard shows us how one group is paying tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen in efforts to inspire the next generation of pilots.
There's one thing for sure, no one ever gets tired of watching a plane take off or come in for a landing. But for pilots like Ramon Hemphill, it's the in-between that gets him.
It's the scenery. Like the things I can tell you I've seen, I'd have a hard time putting it into words, just how beautiful it is out there.
That being said, as an aerospace engineer, he would be lying if he didn't admit that he kind of likes the challenge too.
And this may scare some people, but you will never truly master it. It is that much of a complicated endeavor to where you're always finding room for improvement.
It's a mindset, he says, the same mindset the Tuskegee Airmen had.
Because you're talking about a subset of folks who were just at the highest peak talent-wise. They got held back for so long, from going into the actual theater. But instead of sitting on their hands, they trained and they trained and they trained.
Ultimately becoming the chosen airmen to guide bombers safely to their targets, fighting off the enemy when necessary.
The Tuskegee Airmen did that better than anybody else.
So well, in fact, that the Red Tails earned their own monikers.
The Germans would see the Red Tails and they called them the Red Tail Devils. But the bomber pilots called them the Red Tail Angels because they protected them on high.
It's this history that Tuskegee Airmen members want to pass on to young people, especially young black men and women. It's why they wear the red coats.
Part of our mission in Tuskegee Airmen is to instill within the youth of this world an interest in aviation.
When Air Force veteran Toby Hubbard speaks to first-year Academy students, he always asks the same question, hoping that one day he'll get a different answer.
I said, well, how many of you have interest or experience in aviation? About 2/3 of the room raised their hand, and I was blown away. I said, keep your hands up. There were no black hands raised.
It's about exposure. So if you want more hands in the air, you have to show them that what may seem impossible to do is actually more possible than they realize.
They had to do it under the conditions that they did. We shouldn't have any excuse, period.
In Pasco County, I'm Amber Gerard, Spectrum News.
The Green Bay Packers are calling for the National Football League to ban the tush push. The Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles used the so-called tush push for a first down or a touchdown. Well, during the play, the center snaps the ball to quarterback Jalen Hurts, and he's pushed from behind by his teammates. Many teams claim the play is dangerous and controversial, but NFL officials say there's no significant increase in potential injuries. The competition committee will meet next month for a discussion. The 2025 NFL Scouting Combine kicks off in Indianapolis Thursday ahead of the league's upcoming draft. More than 300 players are among some of college football's top draft prospects invited to the event to show teams both their physical and mental capabilities. They are expected to participate in workouts, exams, to interview with teams, coaches, and general managers. Well, the New York Giants general manager says he's looking for a quarterback.
We're going to look at, vets. We're going to look at the draft. We're going to look at trade candidates. We're going to look at under every rock to, find the best prospect for us going into the 25 season.
This year's NFL draft is set for April 24th through the 26th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm Sharon Tazwell. Thanks for watching. Your Spectrum News at Night is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Our journey towards improving mental health doesn't always present a clear path. Every Thursday on Your Mental Health, we listen to voices across our communities, discussing the challenges of everyday life and presenting accessible resources to guide us along the path to our well-being, providing hope and empowering choices that light the way to a healthier you.
Your Mental Health with Dr. Nicole Clark, Thursdays on Spectrum News Plus, available on all your favorite devices.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.